When it comes to the Splitting Steel Champion, the question that I probably get asked the most at this point is, how do I craft that sword? There's no fractured items available on the market. Can I use other bases? All kinds of questions like this. I'm going to attempt to answer all of those in this video. One of the biggest steps when you're moving towards the mid or high end of any build that uses a two-hand physical weapon is creating that weapon. So to answer the first question, what bases can you use for this sword? Now, the reason that I choose the Ezomyte blade is because this overall, in my opinion, is the best base sword. Reason being is that it has good attacks per second, which scales extremely well with added damage. It has good critical strike chance, the best critical strike chance out of all of the high-end blades. There's nothing that hits 6.5 like the Ezomyte blade does. And the base damage of the blade is actually quite good in comparison to the other blades that are available. Previously, a lot of people might have thought of like the Exquisite blade as being the best. However, if you look here, 74 to 138, 80 to 134, the difference in damage here is very minimal, and this has higher crit chance, higher attack speed, and only slightly less global crit strike multiplier. So I would say that the Exquisite blade is still the second best sword, but the Ezomyte blade by far for our purposes is going to be the best. So you could use an Ezomyte blade, you could use an Exquisite blade, you could use a Lithe blade actually would be okay. You could also use, if you had to, a Lion sword or a Vol greatsword. So try to stick to Ezomyte or Exquisite, at worst a Lithe. If you really can't find anything else and you don't want to do the other Warlord method of crafting a sword, maybe a Lion sword or a Vol greatsword. However, your performance will vary heavily depending on which one of these you choose, so ideally you would probably want to go with an Ezomyte blade. So now that we've chosen our base, the first method that I would like to show you is going to be with a Warlord sword. This is because it's not going to require any of the fracturing or anything that I've talked about in like the guide or anything else. This is going to be something that you can go and source your base with just farming stuff in maps. So you're going to need a Warlord eye level 83 Ezomyte blade. You'll want it to be about 28 quality, as you can see that I've set here. You can get that either through the Hillock bench or using perfect fossils before you begin. You should be able to create an eye level 83 Ezomyte blade with the Warlord affix with no problem whatsoever. At the absolute worst case, set in your filter to look for eye level 83 Ezomyte blades, because you're probably going to want to do that to be able to pick up the Crucible mods that you want for it, and then just take that blade, make it rare, and use a Warlord's Exalted Orb on it. That's if these do not exist on the trade website and you can't get them for some reason. Now, as I said, we're going to be starting with the Warlord method. This method is quite a bit harder, in my opinion, than the other methods that are available. However, this does not require any kind of fractured base. So the whole idea here is that almost every single one of these methods that I'm going to be talking about today uses deafening essences of contempt, meaning the highest essence of contempt that we can get. The reason for this is that it guarantees us this added physical damage roll. So in these swords, the added physical damage roll is actually relatively hard to get normally. It is one of 3 mods that are very difficult to obtain. So with these essences, we're able to guarantee that we get one of those very difficult mods. The pain point here in crafting this is the first step as well as the second step. Everything beyond that isn't too bad once you've got your base. However, these steps can be a little bit painful. As I said, the fractured base is significantly easier to craft on. However, you can do this if you absolutely have to. Now, what we are looking to get here is we are looking to get attack speed tier 1 or tier 2. And we're going to need to get those mods isolated. So what you're going to do is you're going to be just hitting the sword with these deafening essences of contempt. Be careful, because there is a small chance that you might roll on a very good sword and you wouldn't want to go over that. However, you really are just looking to roll this until you can get just the physical essence mod as well as the attack speed mod isolated. Now this is a tier 3 mod, so I probably wouldn't keep this. However, we're going to keep going. We're going to be looking for attack speed. And once we do find it, I will jump to that section here. This might take a little while, unfortunately. Now, something interesting that you can do is that if you do have something like this, where none of these other mods on here have anything having to do with attack, you can go into suffixes and you can do cannot roll attack modifiers. You could do cannot roll attack modifiers, apply this to the weapon if there is an open suffix. As you can see, there isn't one right now, but you can apply cannot roll attack modifiers. And then when you use one of these annulment orbs, it will never hit those attack modifiers. You may hit the cannot roll attacks over and over again, but as you can see, no matter how many times I do this, it is never going to hit either of those attack modifiers. This is a pretty easy way to take some stubborn mods off of a base that you're trying to roll. So that's what I would say that you would want to do. Now, as I said previously, we're going to keep rolling this until we do get those modifiers isolated, which, as I said, might take me a little bit of time. This can take anywhere from like 100 essences, 300 essences. It really is just going to come up to luck. As you've seen, I've seen 3, like tier 3, quite a few times now. Tier 1 and tier 2 are a little bit harder to get, so we'll go ahead and jump to whenever I get those. Remember, boys, if you enjoy this content or this video ends up helping you out, consider liking this video to help support the channel and subscribing and hitting that notification bell to stay up to date with all the latest videos. Okay, so it didn't actually take me that long. However, I have an interesting situation here. As you might be able to see, we're at number 29 on our Essences of Contempt, and you'll see that we do have this base here. We've got tier 2 attack speed, we have a random suffix, and a hybrid physical damage roll. Now, interestingly enough, we actually don't want that hybrid physical damage roll. Now, what I would personally do here is this is a little bit rough, but you probably want to just keep going with Essences of Contempt if the annuls don't hit here. But for the purposes of this video and to not make it absurdly long, we are just going to randomly hit it with annuls here. And we actually got insanely lucky. We hit both of the mods that we wanted to. You could do things, like I said previously, like the cannot roll attack modifiers. You could do prefixes can't be changed and things like that if you really wanted to try to, you know, better your luck a little bit. However, the whole goal at the end of the day is getting these 2 modifiers alone, however you have to do it. Now, being that this method is quite a bit more difficult and quite a bit more investment, I would probably recommend that you really do push for tier 2 or tier 1 on this attack speed. Tier 1 would obviously be better if you want to go for it, simply because the next step can be rather expensive, because what we're going to be doing is we're going to be crafting a whole bunch of stuff on here. So we're going to be crafting 3 crafted modifiers, so we'll be putting that on here. We'll be doing prefixes cannot be changed, and then we will be doing suffixes cannot be changed. So when we put all 3 of these on here, you'll notice that prefixes cannot be changed, suffixes cannot be changed, and we have 1 open prefix. Now, because this is a Warlord base, what we can do here is we can go to Harvest, we can do a Speed Reforge, and this will guarantee the Warlord Hybrid Attack Speed Physical Damage mod. Now, the problem here with this mod is that if we look at the 2-handed base and the mods that are available for it, you'll notice that this mod in particular has a bunch of tiers, and the lowest tier is 500 weighting. The rest of these tiers combined only come up to 550 weighting. Now, I would say if you get anything that's tier 4 or higher, you probably want to just try to keep this sword as is and maybe craft on a different base. If you do happen to get a tier 5 roll, which is going to be about half of the time, you could always try to start again, but at that point, it's really hard to save the base. You could attempt to do it, but it's going to be difficult. So what you're going to be doing is you're going to go back into crafting your sword, and you will hit this with a Speed Reforge, and it will give you a Warlord's modifier. As you can see, half of the time it is going to be tier 5. You can see a lot of the time that's 3 tier 5s in a row, 4 tier 5s in a row, and then we got a tier 3. So that's the problem here with this method. It is guaranteed at the end of the day that you will be able to force this on here, but you just have to get to the point where you've actually gotten it, and it can take quite a bit of time. Now, as I said previously, if you do get a lower one, you can attempt to save the sword, but what I would personally do is I would leave that tier 5 modifier on there, multi-mod it, and sell the sword and start with a new base. That's what I would personally do, because at that point, you've already invested a ton of money, and you can make another base extremely easily. Warlord's Exalted Orbs are not that expensive. You can make another base, essence it again, make up some of your costs by selling the blade that you had already made, and be done. Now, what you're going to do here, whether or not you have missed this or gotten the good one, is you're going to remove these modifiers, and then you're going to once again craft 3 crafted modifiers. You do 3 crafted modifiers. You will do crit with stats is what you're looking for. You'll see there is a plus to strength, plus to intelligence, and increased crit strike chance. And then you are going to craft the physical damage roll on the prefix. You're going to craft the normal physical damage roll. If I can type physical instead of prefix. You're going to craft the normal physical damage roll, not the hybrid one that has like chance to poison or anything on it. Those are lower percentages. You'll craft this on it, and the sword will be done. 747 PDPS sword with no Crucible mods or anything extra on it. It is on a good base, good attack speed, good base crit chance. Everything should be solid. This is a higher DPS than the sword that you saw in the video that I was using, that I did all of the Ubers with, farmed 80% Delirious maps. It's higher than the sword that I have right now on my character. The crit chance is a decent amount lower, but you could boost that with the crit chance from the Crucible mod, or you could get the attack speed Crucible mod, whichever you're able to accomplish. Now, if you wanted to use a fractured base, this becomes significantly easier to get a very similar sword. So the idea here is that you're going to go to the same exact sword. You will grab a fractured base. We'll do an Ezomyte blade, but you can use any of the other ones that I talked about early on. You're ideally going to want item level 83. Don't go lower than item level 83, but anything higher than it is okay. It just adds in more garbage modifiers that you might, you know, get instead of the ones that you're looking for. So try to go to eye level 83 if you can. We don't want any base on it. We don't want any of the influencers or such. 28 to 30% quality, and you're going to want to get one of the prefixes, either hybrid fizz and accuracy or physical damage on this item fractured. These bases are going to be extremely expensive right now. You can potentially get them on other bases that aren't Ezomyte blades right now, but I have apparently destroyed the market for these fractured swords. It is what it is, unfortunately. I can't really do anything about it, but I will at least show you what to do if you do have access to one of these fractured bases. So the process is relatively similar here. If you got, like, say, a % fizz damage tier 2 fractured Ezomyte blade, you would make this rare, just so that you can get the essences running on it, and you're hitting it with tier 1 essences of contempt until you get the other physical damage mod and 1 open suffix. So the whole idea here is you're just going to be hitting this until we get hybrid physical damage. If you have a fractured hybrid physical damage roll, you would be going until you get the normal physical damage. So we're just going to hit this with essences until we get hybrid physical damage, and then we will go from there. Once again, be careful and make sure that you check the mods that you see on your sword, because there is a small but possible chance that you just roll an amazing sword automatically. It can happen, just relatively rare. So we'll go ahead and jump to whenever I get hybrid physical damage, and we'll just see how many it takes. This can take the same amount as it does on the other sword, 100, 200, 300 essences. It's just kind of the luck of the draw on how good you are at RNG Gamba crafting. Okay, so I just want to highlight this because this was my 35th essence, and this is what I was talking about. I rolled a very good sword here, so keep in mind this isn't like ideal because I'm not going to be able to put hybrid fizz on it in any meaningful way, but I rolled crit strike chance, global crit multi, and tier 1 attack speed. You would just keep this sword, right? 743 PDPS, you'd either keep it, sell it, do whatever. This you would keep, and you would either try to craft some kind of physical mod on it or slam it with like an exalt or something. Like you just hit this with an exalt and hope that you get something good. I mean, you probably are not going to get something good. You're going to get something terrible. I mean, on the third slam, okay, 900, yeah, no. So the idea here is that this can happen, but keep in mind that it is a very, very unlikely thing to happen. You're really looking to get that other physical damage mod. So we're going to go ahead and skip forward to that. Okay, so we did land it after 75 essences. This is a tier 5. I would say like tier 5 and above you can probably keep. It's not ideal to have tier 5, but it gets like substantially harder the further you go on. I would personally probably stick with a tier 5 because I think that's enough damage to do everything that I would want to do in the game. You can go further beyond that if you would like to, but for the purposes of the video, we are going to stop here. So what you're going to do is you'll notice that we have 1 suffix here. You can either once again do cannot roll attack modifiers and annul it, but most of the time I'm going to say that it's probably better to just do prefixes cannot be changed and hit it with a scour orb. So you do prefixes cannot be changed to save the 3 prefixes that we've gotten, hit it with a scour orb to take off all of the suffixes. From this point, you just simply multi-mod this and you are done. You're going to do 3 crafted modifiers. You'll do 3 crafted modifiers, attack speed. We will craft normal attack speed on here, 16 to 20, and then crit strike chance. We're going to do the hybrid strength intelligence and crit strike chance, and then you should just be done with the sword. If you want to take this one step further, you could attempt doing prefixes cannot be changed and do speed reforges on this through harvest until you got tier 1 attack speed. Keep in mind that you will eventually brick the sword because there's no way to save suffixes anymore or save prefixes anymore, so it can eventually brick the sword and you would have to restart from the beginning using the essences and such. And then once you did manage to do that, so I'll show you if you did manage to do that, you would do prefixes cannot be changed, if I can type properly. You do prefixes cannot be changed, you would hit it with a harvest reforge speed until you manage to get like probably tier 2 or tier 1 attack speed is what I would say. This is going to be a most likely fruitless effort that is very difficult. I probably would just stick with tier 3 to be honest with you, but it is what it is. If you're going for something like this, you're planning on spending an absurd amount of money, but that's the idea. So then what you would do from here, if you did hit this, you would do prefixes cannot be changed, you would hit this with an Ashling Slam, and you would hope that it would take the prefixes cannot be changed. If it took the attack speed, then then you're kind of, you know, having to restart from that anyways. And then from here, this veiled suffix, you would most likely craft the modifier that gives you damage with charges. I think this is the most weight that you can block. And then you would unveil this for the crit chance mod that you could get here, right? And I didn't mean to actually like just put this modifier on here. I meant to put the crafted one on there. Yeah, this one, sorry. But you would put the crafted modifier on there before you unveil it, and then you would go for this strength and intelligence crit strike chance unveil here. And then the last thing that you craft would probably be something like attack speed while near like a unique enemy, or double damage. Like attack speed while a rare unique enemy is nearby, or double damage would probably end up being best. So you do something like double damage here, and this would be your finalized sword. 796 DPS plus whatever the extra that you would get from Crucible mods, and then you would have the chance to deal double damage here. Now, of course, you could go for significantly better mods on this. You could go for higher than a tier 5 mod on the hybrid physical damage. You could go for tier 1 attack speed if you really hated yourself, but that is the process of doing it. Now, I'll show you one other method. I'm going to show you a method where we have just a suffix attack speed fractured. It is very, very similar, just going to be a little bit worse and a little bit more annoying to process. So what you're going to be doing here is that if you have, say, like attack speed as your fractured suffix, right? You're just going to be hitting this with the same exact deafening essences of contempt until you hit hybrid physical accuracy and a good modifier of it. And you have hybrid physical accuracy and another open prefix. So the whole idea here is you would have to hit this mod, an open prefix, and a good version of this mod, that is. You'd probably want to keep like tier 5 or higher, right? You're also going to need one additional open suffix. After you hit those, the process is going to be relatively the same. You're just going to be hitting that hybrid physical damage. You will be clearing off all the other suffixes. The fractured mod will stay there, and then you'll be doing multi-mod, percent physical damage, and the crit chance mod, and then just be happy with that. If you did get that last prefix there, and maybe it wasn't an attack prefix somehow, you could do the, you know, cannot roll attack mods annul method. But most of the time, it's just going to be a gamba, because most of the damage mods are going to be attack damage mods. So for here, we didn't get another prefix. We would do prefixes cannot be changed. And of course, we did get another open suffix. We do prefixes cannot be changed, and we would scour the item, which would leave us with this base. You would then do 3 crafted modifiers, which we'd put this on there, and then we would do the crit and stats modifier that we would put on there. So we do crit and stats, and then under prefixes, we would do the percent physical damage craft, just the normal one once again, percent phys, and hope that we get a good roll. If not, you would have to redo these until you got a better roll, which can get very, very expensive. But that is a 619 PDPS sword, not as good as the one with the physical percentage that's going to be on it, but this is still enough to do every bit of content in the game. You could put some, you know, like Crucible mods on here and make it significantly better, and just be happy with this blade. And that is going to be it for the video. Hopefully that was able to, you know, answer a bunch of questions that you had about crafting a big two-handed fizz sword. This is not like the process of making a mirror tier sword or anything like that. I'm just trying to make a video talking about how the average player who wants to be able to bump this build up, meaning splitting steel build up to the next level, can craft a pretty decent physical sword. Keep in mind, when it comes to Crucible stuff, I'm purposefully not talking about the Crucible stuff here because it can be an absolute nightmare and it would take up an entire video in and of itself. You can either look up like the guide that I think Captain Lance, or the video that Captain Lance was talking about. There's a post about it on Reddit about how to make the perfect base when it comes to this kind of thing. You can mess with that if you'd like to, but just go look in the POB for splitting steel if you're interested in what mods that you should be looking for. In my opinion, go for at least a good crit chance roll or a good attack speed roll in the second slot, and notably not the global less damage attack speed roll. I think those are just kind of bad most of the time. Go for the normal attack speed roll. And remember, boys, if you enjoy this content, make sure to give this video a like, subscribe to the YouTube channel, hit that notification bell to stay up to date with all the latest videos, and stay safe out there in raid class, and I'll see you guys in the next video.